Russian volcano eruption. Explained, the mystery of Krasheninnikov's awakening. I want you to picture this. A vast, snow-covered land stretching hundreds of miles, where the wind howls through the summer months and winter feels like it could last forever. A place where sunlight drifts in quietly, like a visitor who doesn't plan to stay. Not New York, not Tokyo. I'm talking about Kamchatka, a remote peninsula on the far eastern edge of Russia. For centuries, no one really mentioned the name Krasheninnikov. No tourists, no explorers, no signs of life as we usually know it. Just frozen silence. And yet, on a morning in late July 2025, everything changed. Suddenly, strangely, from deep beneath the ocean, a roar was heard. A massive earthquake, one of the strongest the region had felt in years, struck, measuring close to 9.0 on the Richter scale. Powerful enough to make the entire Pacific Ocean tremble like a giant drum. And then, it was like something had awakened. The Krasheninnikov volcano, a name that had been buried in history books since the 15th century, suddenly came to life. No warning, no introduction, just a thunderous explosion and a colossal plume of ash shooting into the sky, higher than Mount Everest. Can you feel that chill down your spine? I still remember getting the alert from the seismic station in Alaska. The whole lab went dead silent because we all knew this wasn't just another eruption. Here's what makes it so unique. For the first time in modern history, scientists believe a Russian volcano eruption may have been directly triggered by an earthquake. This wasn't just nature doing its thing. It was a message, a reminder that what seems still isn't always silent. And what we think is long gone might just be waiting for the right moment to rise again. And you know what's been on my mind ever since? How many more Krasheninnikovs are quietly waiting on this planet? Just one good shake away from waking up. Part 2. Decoding the strange event. I remember that morning so clearly. I was in the research lab in New Mexico, where seismic signals from stations all around the world get funneled in. The air was quiet like any other day, just the steady hum of machines and the blinking lights on the radar screens. And then, all of a sudden, the system lit up red. Constant alerts. A massive wave of seismic activity appeared. And there it was, 8.8 on the Richter scale. Can you even imagine that? That's not just a number. That's the planet sending a warning, a jolt powerful enough to literally shift the Earth's axis. We're talking about the energy equivalent of millions of atomic bombs exploding at once, deep beneath the ocean floor. An earthquake like that? It's not just a crack in the crust. It's like the Earth itself was convulsing, like a living, breathing organism going into a fever. And then it happened. Something no one, and I mean no one, could have seen coming. Krasheninnikov volcano, the long-forgotten giant of Kamchatka, suddenly came back to life. This mountain had been silent for 600 years. That's since before we invented the telescope, back when people believed the sun revolved around the Earth, before electricity, before modern science. And now, in 2025, it woke up. Ask yourself, why now? Why not in the 1800s? Or the year 2000? Why just days after that colossal earthquake. A column of ash shot more than 8 kilometers into the sky, blanketing eastern Russia. From space, satellites captured a black plume, like rage rising straight from the Earth's core. From that moment on, the name Krasheninnikov volcano was no longer a dusty footnote in an old geology book. It became the face of something rare, something profound, a Russian volcano eruption that seemed to be triggered not merely by magma, but by a shock wave from the ocean's deepest depths. I started to wonder, both as a scientist and as a human standing before something far greater than myself. Could it be that the Earth, too, responds in harmony? The quake awakened the volcano. The volcano stirred the sky, and the sky, in turn, became a mirror, reflecting back the motion of a planet we often assume is just randomly ticking along. But it's not random, is it? That question kept echoing in my mind, and maybe it's echoing in yours too. Why now? And more importantly, are we really listening to what nature is trying to tell us? Part 3. A scientist's view. How an earthquake can trigger a volcano. I want you to picture this. Really picture it. Beneath the ground, it's not just a solid, lifeless block of rock like most people imagine. It's actually a living, breathing system, simmering with thousands of underground magma channels, rivers of molten rock, glowing red, flowing like blood through the arteries of the earth. It's a lot like a living body. And in that body, some arteries could get blocked, pressure builds, and things get tight. Over centuries, sometimes even thousands of years. I always joke with my students like this. If you shake a cold can of soda and then suddenly pop the lid, what happens? Boom! It explodes. And the Russian volcano eruption in Kamchatka, specifically the Krasheninnikov volcano, might just be the planet-sized version of that explosion. The 8.8 magnitude earthquake that hit recently? Think of it like a sudden twist to the neck of that soda bottle. It sent shock waves through the Earth's crust, and those waves reached places where magma had been stuck, compressed, trapped for centuries. One jolt, and the pressure valve blows. Now here's the thing. Science has long suspected a link between earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. But the evidence has always been scattered, hard to prove. Quakes happen here, eruptions happen there, sometimes weeks or even months apart. But this time, it's different. This time, we saw a massive earthquake, and just a few days later, Krasheninnikov volcano, which hadn't made a sound in over 600 years, suddenly woke up, right next to the quake's epicenter, in the same geological chain. This wasn't just a coincidence in the data. It was a collision point between the mechanics of nature and the whispers of the earth itself. And let me say this clearly, nothing in nature is random. In my Earth energy forecasting classes, I always remind my students, every movement is a response. One tremor in one place might just be an echo from somewhere far away. You see a rock fall, but that moment could be the result of millions of years of stored tension, quietly building beneath your feet. And this time, that message came from a Russian volcano eruption, from Krasheninnikov itself. You see, when we learn to listen deeply enough, nature always speaks. The only question is, are we truly listening? Part 4. Reflection. What can we learn from this event? Have you ever witnessed a Russian volcano eruption awakened by an earthquake? If not, then welcome to the 21st century, a time when science is no longer just cold numbers locked away in laboratories, but a doorway, one that opens to the truth that Earth is alive, sensing, and reacting in its own mysterious way. I want you to pause for a few seconds and think about this. We, these small human beings, walking on concrete roads, living in tall steel buildings, are really just temporary guests on the fragile crust of a vast, breathing planet, moving and responding according to laws that go far beyond human will. We don't control the Earth. We simply live with it. And the eruption of Krasheninnikov volcano after 600 years? It wasn't a random geological accident. It was a reminder, a timeless message written in the language of earth, fire, and time. I often tell my students, especially those studying forecasting and earth energy, when nature speaks, don't just measure it, listen. Because some truths can't be captured by instruments. They can't be explained by formulas. They can only be felt through respect and humility in front of a wisdom that surpasses our ego. Krasheninnikov didn't erupt just to release geological pressure. Maybe, just maybe, it was signaling that everything follows a cycle. Build-up, explosion, reset. And in humanity's whirlwind of progress, we're not outside of that cycle. Have you noticed? Nature is never angry. It simply responds, like any living organism, when it's pushed, or when it reaches its limit. I don't want you to walk away from this video with fear. I want you to walk away with awareness that maybe, instead of trying to conquer nature, it's time we learn how to live with it. Learn to observe, learn to forecast, and most of all, learn to be grateful. Because if there's one lesson this Russian volcano eruption in Kamchatka has taught us, it's this. Nature isn't silent. It's just waiting for us to listen on the right frequency. Part 5. Video ending. So, what do you think? How many more Krasheninnikovs are out there? Volcanoes we thought were long asleep, quietly waiting for a signal, a tremor, a moment to wake up? And us, caught in the chaos of constant phone notifications and the noise of city life, are we still awake enough to notice that something far bigger than anything we've ever calculated might be moving around us? Something that doesn't fit in a formula, doesn't show up in your morning news, but is there, quiet and magnificent all around us, every single day. Maybe you'll never set foot in Kamchatka. Maybe you'd never even heard of Krasheninnikov volcano before watching this video. But I believe, somewhere deep inside, you've begun to wake up. A part of you that wants to understand nature, wants to listen instead of control, wants to feel instead of just analyze. Because understanding a Russian volcano eruption isn't just about learning geology, it's also about understanding ourselves. Tiny, living beings, standing on the skin of a living planet. A planet that breathes, responds, and is maybe trying to tell us something. And if this video, in some small way, sparked your curiosity, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Share it with someone. Let more people know. Understanding nature doesn't make us weaker. It makes us wiser, because it reminds us exactly where we stand in the grand scheme of things. The flow of knowing will see you in the next journey, where science isn't just about knowing. It's about waking up.